Good morning. Actually, good afternoon. This is the Ancient Texan. I was trying to go find a video by Lou, something like the China story. She's apparently born in China and has friends and relatives still over there. And I think she's a college professor, and she reports on YouTube, not every day, but quite frequently, about what's going on in China. I can't vouch for her, except she seems like a very trustworthy person, and I think um, I I trust her. Whether I know what I'm talking about or not, who knows? Oh, but she has a lot of insight how the Communist Chinese Party works, or the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP. And apparently, there's been a lot of the upper echelon of CCP dying from COVID. First thing I found out is a lot of the CCP rulers, and it's not just like the top 1%, it's like the top 30% type number, live to be about 100 years old. How is this? Well, there's been a rumor for a long time. Of course, it's very hard to prove because this kind of thing will be very protected. So, this probably falls under the status of a conspiracy theory. But it's a conspiracy theory that I would love to see investigated. How do the CCP members live to be 100 years old? They get organ transplants. Where do the organs come from, allegedly? Uyghurs. Other people, like there's a lot of young men missing in China. There's a big excess of young men compared to women, so who hardly notices? And then people with rare blood types, like there's a kid that disappeared recently that has P blood type. I didn't even know such thing existed. Well, the story is that they use organ transplants to keep them living past, a normal 70 years, like they used to say in the Bible, which is 70 years old. And the reason they're dying off is because you have to take immunosuppressants um, when you have a organ to keep your body from rejecting it. So COVID attacks those people, and we have a lot of the CCP members dying off. That's the way the story goes. So they harvest organs from not volunteers, but people that are volunteered and use them to increase their life expectancy. That's what she alleges is happening with the CCP. She started kind of crying during this presentation. It obviously upset her, and she has some personal thing going on there with this story. I um, have distrusted the Chinese and recognized that their value system, not necessarily the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, for a very long time, and that's a whole nother podcast. Um, but the not in my backyard people and rich leaders of our companies send a lot of jobs and work to the Chinese, and they kind of don't worry about what kind of conditions exist in the Chinese plants or the morals of the people they're dealing with or the environmental problems created by these Chinese companies that take the job of Americans. That's one thing to take the job and compete fairly. But when you don't have to worry about taking care of people or the environment, and you don't have to worry about making a profit because you run a second set of books. And if the government decides that you're a good employer of people, meaning you employ a lot of people for the money invested, you don't have to run with a profit. So a profit-making company in the U.S., the only kind of company that you can actually have, has a hard time competing against someone that's doesn't have to make a profit. And then you put on top of that the CCP rulers are really pretty ruthless and they don't live by our value system. And we get little bits and pieces and information about the CCP. None of it very provable because they control information so well, not only to outsiders, but to their own people. So we can't really confirm, say, the story that they use organ transplants or that a lot of them are dying right now. But we can confirm a lot of the stuff that has to do with their standards, in the workplace. So another thing that point out is they have a system that it helped them control people's actions during COVID. They'd get had to get a green light on their phone to go anywhere and to get on public transport or go to restaurants or do anything, and they would get a yellow or red light that lit up and said they couldn't go anywhere. And they can trace everybody except for all these people that are boys that are disappearing and these people that allegedly are being used to furnish organs or Uyghurs. They selectively can track and find anybody. For instance, someone goes on a protest and they had a protest where they put up a white blank piece of white paper since they know they can't say anything bad against CCP without getting in trouble. They put up blank pieces of white paper. Those people are now being found and taken care of. So they have a great system for finding people they want to find. But this kid that disappeared with the P type blood type, and I'd like to know if that's a real thing or if that's just Lay's has some misinformation going there. So just something to think about. And when you buy an Apple phone, just realize that you're buying a phone made by people locked in factories lately, working for low wages, long hours, and not even being allowed to quit during COVID. So a lot of stuff we've moved over to China, and we take it and use it and don't ask any questions. And then we feel very noble because we don't have those plants and making pollution or, digging up a mine to get lithium in our backyard. Not in my backyard. People are very proud of sending stuff to China because they don't have to deal with it in America. The people that used to have the jobs in America don't have to deal with it either. Anyway, I'd really like to know if the CCP uses organ transplants to keep their old dudes, their old past leaders going a few extra decades. This is the Ancient Texan challenging our practice of sending jobs to China without the companies that sends the jobs to China checking out what's going on in the companies making their products. Anyway, this is the Ancient Texan. Hoping you have a good one. Namaste.